Good evening. I'm Rochelle Tucker, Political Action Chair for the Rockingham County branch of NAACP. Want to officially welcome you all tonight for the virtual forum that we're having for our local and state candidates. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us, and we hope that this opportunity will give you some additional knowledge about these candidates, the issues that they are pushing, and hopefully you'll find out a little bit more about them. I do want to thank Merle Holloway for getting all of this set up for us, the NC 100. Set up everything, was able to communicate with the candidates who are going to be with us tonight, and used all of his tech savvy skills to put all of this together. So I do want to officially thank him and the others in NC 100 who were responsible for this. And I want to thank and introduce Mr. Felton Fashi, who is going to be our moderator for tonight. So Felton and I have worked together before, and he's a pro at this. And so he's going to be talking with our candidates, asking the questions on tonight. And you will have the opportunity to put questions into the chat if there's something that comes up that you would like to ask of the candidates that you will see here on tonight. So without further ado, we want to get going and don't want to keep you guys all night. So Mr. Felton Fashi, please take it away.
Thank you, Rochelle. Just want to say I'm glad to be here and glad to participate in something this important. It's always critical that you get to know who you might be voting for. So without further ado, I say let's get started.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Steve Lukin. I'm a family physician. I started Reidsville Family Medicine along with my brother 30-some years ago. I've been chief of staff at our local hospital and chairperson of our hospital board. For the past dozen years, I fought awfully hard against my chief opponent, Phil Berger, who unfortunately seems he cannot be with us tonight, but I fought hard for Medicaid expansion. He unfortunately denied the working poor of our state expansion into Medicaid. This led to thousands of folks who died prematurely. Sadly, it also led to a high number of hospital bankruptcies, including our own Eden's Hospital, and led to billions of dollars of tax loss. He's now taken the same wrecking ball to public education. I consider public education a foundational element for any successful society. And the idea that he would run unopposed just did not sit well with me. I'm happy to be here tonight with you all, and we'll be happy to share my perspective on issues with you. Thank you.
You have to unmute, Mr. Robinson. You have to unmute yourself.
That's right. Again, I'm Alvin Robinson. I am running for State Senate District 26, and I am a resident of Guilford County, as I know that this is specifically to people in Rockingham tonight, but the district comprises not only Rockingham County, but also about a third probably of Guilford County. And so I am running, and I'm running to represent you based upon truth and righteousness. And when I say that, I mean that which is consistent with what God, our Creator, has intended for us with regards to his what he intended for humanity with regards to how we are to live life with one another, and even how that the principles behind that are to even be present within government. And so my background, I have a background in public safety. I was a firefighter, actually a fire captain, and sheriff's deputy here in Guilford and Greensboro for about 19 years. And back in late 2021, I was fired from both the fire department and the sheriff's office because I took a stand with regards to my sincerely held religious conviction related to my body, against the COVID-19 policies that both of those agencies had put forth at the time. In doing that, again, taking that stand, it was an experience of the type stances that needs to be taken right now against tyrannical government and things in government that are really are done without truly having the best interest of the people in mind. And so I'm running, also opposing Phil Berger, the incumbent, and also in a race here against Mr. Luking. I'm running to represent you all, again, with truth and righteousness in mind. And when I say that, again, I've said it once, but what I mean by that is that which is consistent with what God has intended for us as humanity, how we are to live life with one another. And I look to represent you based upon that. We can bring up any issue. It could be education, economic development, life, whatever. And if we look at the truth of what God has said about these things, and if we bring that into our governmental situation, we'll be a lot better state and really a lot better nation. So again, Alvin Robinson, thanks for allowing me to be here.
I'm Vicki Wimberly Alston. I'm chairman of the Rockingham County School Board, and I'm running again for 4 more years. I grew up in Reidsville. I went to South End School. My mother was a teacher, and I went through all the schools, graduated from Reidsville High School, went on to High Point University, graduated in elementary education, and started my career in Danville, Virginia, teaching 2nd grade. Came back to Mall Street School and taught there, and then went on to Franklin Street School and taught in the kindergarten school. And when we had a choice from the kindergarten school, we went back and we could choose where we wanted to go when that was dissolved. And I chose to go back to Mall Street because I loved Mall Street and I wanted to give those children everything they needed that I could do. So then after I taught at Mall Street for several years, I went on to Monroeton. Then I retired and I decided I wanted to give back. So I joined RCC Foundation, and then also did the Hospital Auxiliary, which I'm president of now, and also on the Cone Health Advisory Board. So I've really enjoyed serving Rockingham County in all kinds of areas, but my love is children and the education in Rockingham County. So I want to serve 4 more years in order to see where we need new construction within our county and where we need to maybe redistrict to maybe alleviate some crowding of schools. So I have a mission to finish, and I hope to be reelected to the Board of Education at this time. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is James Motley. I am running for the position of Board of Education, District 2 in Rockingham County. I have to make the statement that I'm not a politician. And I repeat it, I am not a politician. What I am is a servant. I came to this decision to run for this position since I was a native of Rockingham County, Reidsville. When I moved back home several years ago, I looked around and saw that there were things that need to be done in education to be competitive in surrounding counties and in the state of North Carolina and the nation as a whole. As I've attended meetings at the Board of Education, I admire the efforts that people are making, but the bottom line is that there's still work to be done, and I'm just not satisfied with what I see. Our school system in Rockingham County currently has 22 schools, 9 of which are not functioning at an acceptable level. If we continue this, we will have an ongoing problem, and we will continue to be a C-level district in the state of North Carolina. I made the decision that I would try to help all I could to improve the education in Rockingham County and not allow anything that would prevent the kids in Rockingham County from getting a quality education so they can compete in all areas in North Carolina and indeed the entire nation. So I'm asking for people to consider me as a person who has business experience. I'm a licensed real estate broker, have been in business for all of my adult life. And in so doing, I've learned many things in business, management, technical matters relating to all matters of business. And I feel I can transfer those knowledges to help develop quality education in Rockingham County. So I'm asking that you would consider voting for me, James Motley, District 2, Rockingham County. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Gaitha Stevenson. I'm a proud graduate of Reedsville High School class of 1980. I continued my education by attending Winston-Salem State University. I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in early childhood to become an educator in 1984. I am a mother of one son who also attends Reedsville High School with 13 years of perfect attendance. He's also a graduate of Winston-Salem State University. I am a retired educator from Rockingham County Schools after teaching for 30 years. I was named Teacher of the Year in 2003. I've served on the school improvement team. I was a student teacher mentor. I was a grade level lead teacher. I am currently a commissioner for the new Reedsville Housing Authority Board. I became interested in education. I was inspired by my teachers when I was in middle school. Just to name a few, Thurman Hines, Exia Woods, Susie Lane, those people were very instrumental in my decision to become a teacher. I was hired by Reedsville City Schools in 1987 as a teacher of South End Elementary School. I taught most of my career for 28 years at Mall Street. I came full circle in 2018 when I returned to South End School to retire. I have spent most of my professional life in education. I had my intentions are to help our schools have better quality education. I am sensitive to the condition of our community and schools. I am a public servant who wants to be on a team that accepts the responsibility of improving the quality of public education for children of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds. Thank you.
Well, welcome to first the Senate candidates. Once you are brought back to the stage, I'm really excited after hearing you guys' introductions. I think everyone brings something different to the table, which should make for good politics, especially where we can be cordial and respect for one another. But we're going to watch a video from Mo Green right now.
Hello, my name is Maurice Green, and I'm a candidate for the position of North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction. There are many issues impacting our schools. I'll lift up three. The first of which is full funding of our public schools. You see, North Carolina finds itself in 48th position across the nation with regards to what we fund our public schools. We're 49th with regards to the effort that we put into our public schools. We need to have more investment in our public schools. Two, we must revere our educators and pay them more. When I use the term educators, I'm certainly talking about teachers, but I'm talking about more. Talking about all the folks who educate our children, including our bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians. And revere, it's the best word I can come up with to really signify that this is indeed a noble profession. And then three, we must be sure that we provide resources that will meet each and every child where they are so they can get to where they need to be. And that may include providing opportunities for more career and technical education courses, or college prep courses. I also want to lift up that there is so much good in public education, even while we have to make reforms and improvement. Let's celebrate that good while we do so. Thank you and be blessed.
All right. Welcome. I hope first name basis is okay for this setting. That all right with you, Mr. Robinson? Can I call you Alvin?
Yes,
That
sir.
work? All right. Just want to make sure. So Steve and Alvin, welcome. Looking forward to this conversation. Like I said, just based off you guys' introductions, I'm a big fan of people who are not the typical politician being involved in our political spaces. So right off the bat, the things that you discussed in your introduction brought me to two questions that I think we should definitely begin with. First and foremost, healthcare was mentioned by both, and it was something that seemed of high level interest. So I'll begin there. Healthcare access. Access to affordable healthcare remains a significant concern for rural areas. What will you do to improve healthcare access for the residents of Rockingham County? Go with you first, Steve.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, my last 12 years of experience, I think, will show what I will be doing going forward. I fought awfully hard to get Medicaid expanded to nearly 600,000 North Carolinians, most whom I should note were working. In fact, they were working women, but working at jobs where they didn't earn enough money to be able to afford insurance, or they worked at jobs where insurance wasn't provided. And in the American medical system, if you don't have insurance, you might as well be on the outside looking in. So I was proud to be a part of that. We have huge issues going forward. The rural counties have been given short shrift by my primary opponent, who refused to expand Medicaid and allowed so many rural hospitals to go bankrupt. Now that we have had Medicaid expanded, we need to push hard to get the large healthcare systems to bring more primary care and specialty care into the rural areas. Right now, I find that to be not a high priority by all means on their part. I think it's because they have such a large voice in the legislative process, and they're more concerned about other issues that might bring higher remuneration to their businesses. But I think we should force them to be more tuned into bringing healthcare to the rural areas. Secondly, medical debt relief. 2 million North Carolinians owe a substantial amount of money, in part due to my primary opponent's refusal to expand Medicaid, but also due to the extreme high charges that accompany much of medical care in our society, and the high deductibles that many people have in insurance. I welcome Governor Cooper's attempt to erase nearly half of these folks' debt currently with the Medicaid plan with the hospitals. And I would work hard to lean on the insurance companies and the hospital systems to improve this situation even further. Independent pharmacies, I think, deserve a shout out. They've been shut out of the legislative process in part because, once again, they're outspent by the insurance companies and the large pharmaceutical industries. They're being squeezed out. They provide half of the primary pharmaceutical care to rural communities. And the House has passed something that allows them to deal on a more even basis with these large industries. But my opponent, Phil Berger, he and several other leaders in the Senate have even refused to look at the legislation to give some relief to the independent pharmacies. That's just several issues. I also support women's healthcare rights to their own reproductive rights decisions. And I'm very concerned that if Governor Mark Robinson were to be elected, along with my current main opponent as senator, the two of them could make access to abortion even more difficult, which I think would be damaging and harmful to the health of women across the state. So I would work hard to oppose that also. Thank you.
All right. Alvin, what are your thoughts on improving healthcare access for residents of Rockingham County?
Yeah, so my thoughts on that. One, we've got to ask the question with even the most recent expansion of Medicaid, and even times in the past where Medicaid has been looked at, but with this most recent expansion, for example, we can ask the question, are people really getting any healthier as the government, and I emphasize government, as the government does things such as expand Medicaid or getting to begin to dabble into healthcare for the citizens. And the answer to that is no, because it's obvious that the answer is no, because there's more and more being asked for. And so is the problem really the government needing to do more about healthcare, or is the problem really responsibility of we the people? This nation, this state, was in our founding documents, it refers so much to we the people and we the people under God. We need to recognize our God-given responsibilities to take care of our bodies. And not only recognize it, but actually do something about it, eating healthier, exercising, those type things. The next question could be, well, what if a person can't afford to eat? I mean, to buy certain groceries and things like that. I know that rural, because we're talking about rural areas. Well, a lot of times rural areas are prime places for farming, for the farming communities. I think what we need to do is to deregulate some things so that farmers can provide wholesome quality foods, and so that people can go to farmers to get wholesome quality foods without having to have a special sticker on it that says USDA approved or something like that. A lot of the food that we're eating is the root cause for our health problems, diabetes and high blood pressure and all these things, with the list goes on and on. And so, I mean, that's one thing. In terms of things such as what they call reproductive health and all that, again, we have to go back to what God says, and God has said, "Thou shalt not murder." And so the government doesn't have a right or an authority to come in and say, we're going to allow for the murder of the unborn or the murder of the elderly because they feel like they don't want to live anymore. These things are evil, and our government should not. Governments are instituted by God, first of all, and so our government should not allow for that which is contrary to the law of God. And so, again, we can look at all these issues, with regards to healthcare, and look at specific diseases and things, pandemics and everything. And we must not approach those things, even as a legislator, with God out of sight. Our state constitution acknowledges our dependence upon God for the continuance of the blessings of liberty that He's given us. And so, when I look at healthcare, I have to do so with that in mind. And in terms of access, certainly, there's nothing wrong with going to a doctor. I don't mean that, but even the healthcare professional must practice medicine with the good of humanity in mind. Outside of that, it's all about the dollar. And so, again, that's where I stand on that particular issue.
All right, thanks for that. I want to stay with you, Alvin. Law enforcement and community policing. What is your stance on ensuring adequate law enforcement resources for rural communities, and how will you promote community policing to improve trust between law enforcement and residents?
Sure. Well, law enforcement officers are they themselves citizens. They are themselves citizens, and they are human beings. And so, as a former law enforcement officer, as I'm approaching a citizen, whether they're on the side of the law where they are a victim, or the side of the law where they're an offender, they're still a human being. And So I think the officers have to, that has the, in terms of training, not only in their basic law enforcement training, but throughout their working career, that type of reminder has to be a part of their training. And then we have to look at the Constitution. The Constitution does just that. The Constitution is what protects the citizens against a tyrannical government. So the police should not be weaponized against the people by, let's say, the federal government or the state government. The police are in a police officer in carrying out his or her duties. They are acting as government, and so everything that they do, again, must be constitutional. In terms of community policing, if that officer remembers that and acts accordingly, then it's going to be recognized by the community that officer is a part of the community, and the officer recognizes that he or she's interacting with the community, and it's a natural gaining of confidence, as far as the confidence of the people in the police. And so it's a mentality and a behavior that has to be carried out or lived by. But again, in terms of ensuring enough officers, again, a local budget determines that, and those local elected officials have to be willing themselves to dedicate the money to the right places in order to have those officers. And so again, that's the way I look at that.
All right, thank you, Steve. Coming to you, same question. I'll repeat it if necessary. What is your stance on ensuring adequate law enforcement resources for rural communities, and how will you promote community policing to improve trust between law enforcement and residents?
So down through the years and decades, I've noticed that locally, the Reidsville City Police and on the county side through the Sheriff's Department, there's been ongoing outreach efforts. I know the Reidsville City Police made a point to have community meetings on various issues and over intervals through the years. I know the Sheriff's Department has had a presence through our local TV and digital platforms in terms of keeping folks informed of issues. I think anytime you can bring the community on board and not only tell them how things are going, but also listen to them about how things are going and their perceptions of how policing is going in their community, I think things are better for it. I think that probably just like doctors and hospitals can do a better job listening to the community and community's needs, I feel our law enforcement could probably do a little bit more outreach and a little less talking and a little more listening about folks' concerns and their needs. It wasn't brought up by Mr. Robinson or Alvin, but I am concerned about rampant gun availability, and I do think a move towards more common sense gun laws would make sense. I'm concerned about folks' access to guns without appropriate background checks, and I think that there should be more of a universal method of ensuring that guns aren't dispersed recklessly. I think this puts our police officers and Sheriff's Department and such at risk. I also think it makes them a little more prone to perhaps be quick to respond for potential threats in their direction. So anything that could calm down the access to guns out there in general, used in wrong circumstances and illegal circumstances and uncontrolled circumstances, I think that we should aim towards that. As far as financing, there's always that tension. Our rural areas face a great challenge with financing health, education, and welfare, and I would include policing in that. I think we can start at the state level. You know, we've seen regressive tax policies under my primary opponent over the last dozen years, where he has often boasted, this is Senator Berger, about reducing corporate tax to the lowest in the nation. Meanwhile, we're finding more tax expectations placed on the lower and the middle class through property taxes and higher sales taxes and more regressive income tax policies. And all of these are leading to more of a tax tightening in the local communities, and therefore tightening access to policing, firemen, health, education, and all. So I think on the state level, we need to push back and go for a more balanced tax policy to give rural communities more resources to tackle this and other problems with.
All right, thanks for that. I'm coming back to you, Alvin. I'm going to give you a chance to respond about your thoughts on gun control of any type of measure. But you have a question that came up in the chat in response to your position on healthcare. Tiffany Thomas asks, do you feel the government should not assist in taking care of their citizens? She also states the Constitution does not protect every citizen equally. So you can respond to that question and to anything that you wanted to mention in regards to gun control.
Sure. So that was a lot at one time, but I'll try to respond to all of it. With regards to, I think the question was, do I believe that whether or not I believe that the government should assist with healthcare? What could you repeat that?
She said, do you feel that the government should not assist in taking care of their citizens?
Okay.
I feel like the government should have a hands-off approach in health.
So the government absolutely has a responsibility to look out for the welfare of the people. But that's after or once it's determined for an individual or for individuals that there is no other help. So what I'm getting to is that the primary responsibility for, let's say, my elderly grandmother, that may not have income, the primary responsibility for her to be taken care of falls on me, you know, because I'm family. If no family is around, no church is around, then yes, the government has a responsibility to look out for the general welfare of the people. But in so many more cases, there has been a neglect of family members. There's been a neglect of the local community in some form or fashion. The people are supposed to take care of the people. And only in those situations where there are no people, so to speak, is when the government comes in. Outside of that, we relinquish our responsibilities. We hand it over to the government, and that's really what we're seeing now. You know, it gets to a point where the government can't handle it, so they come up with a law or a rule that, as another part of the question, it seems that certain individuals are not taken care of. Well, the system is taxed. You know, it's doing you know, perhaps doing all that it can do because others are not doing what they should do. We as men, you know, men are to be taking care of our families so that our children, our wives and our children don't get placed into the government's hands to be taken care of. You know, there are those cases where mom and dad are gone, they're dead or whatever. And so, yeah, the government comes in, but you know, that's usually not the case. In most cases, it's somebody's laziness, neglect, failure to be responsible. And so that's the heart where I'm coming from in the first answering of that question. There was a few more things I was supposed to be answering.
No, it's just totally up to you. If you had a response, since Steve mentioned gun control, if you had a response to. Yeah. Again,
it goes back to human responsibility. You know, a gun does not, in and of itself, by itself, is no harm to anyone. A gun is nothing more than a tool. that has a proper time and place to be utilized to carry out a job. Are they designed for self-defense? They are, but they also designed for things like hunting and sports. So it's not the gun itself, it's the person behind it. So yeah, while we do need to make sure that guns are not in the hands of the obvious or the known a person with a known mental illness that is likely to be provoked to the place of using such a weapon in a unjustified way, we already have those controls in place. What more of what we're seeing is the immorality, the decline of the people, and immorality and hatred for one another, that instead of the way we may have used to do it, where we talked it out, or if my son had an issue with the next door neighbor's sons, the two dads would come together, talk it out, and bring the sons in and show them how, as men, how to work through these things. Well, if I'm out of the picture and his dad's out of the picture, these two young fellows are left to figure life out on their own. And what do? They go to gangs and things of this nature where they're given guns or access to them, and when they're mad at each other, instead of talking it out, they shoot each other. So it's not really a matter of guns in and of itself. It's we as men, especially men, we need to rise up and be the leaders in our communities that God has placed us here to be.
All right, thanks for that. We are in the last quarter of our time together, but we have around 7-8 more minutes. I want to make sure you guys are aware of that before I move on to the next question. I am going to combine a question that I have with one that is in the chat, and hopefully it won't be too hard to follow along with. Steve, I will begin with you. The question is about small businesses and how you would support them. Small businesses as well as Black-owned businesses are vital to our economy. How will you support local businesses? I'm going to attach to that question Dr. Anubia's question. Politicians are trustees of public funds. Given the most recent NCDOA economic disparity study, Black Americans, who consist of more than 15% of the tax base, received less than 1% of contracts. He may be more on a state level, but I think the question is has some legs to it. So I'll let you guys unpack that. Steve.
So just give a 10-word synopsis of the first part of the question. Sorry, I was thinking about the second part, and the first part escaped me. So real fast.
The first part is just how will you help support local businesses, but
Okay,
keeping
sure.
in mind
Yeah.
that Black-owned businesses.
Sure.
That's why I felt the need to combine the two.
Sure. Thank you. So a few things. I did touch on the corporate tax rate earlier, which I'm sensitive to in terms of how it could also potentially harm small businesses. So in the pieces that I've been writing on reinstituting corporate taxes and going back up to 2016 levels, which, by the way, would bring $1.5 billion of extra tax revenue into our state coffers, which would allow us to do so many things on these issues that we've talked about and others. I've also said that small businesses should be given an allotment anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, where they're already paying personal taxes on that income. So as far as additional corporate taxes, early in the year I said 50,000. I have mentioned 100,000 at times, but something that would allow small businesses, which are really the main avenue of added employment the last decade, it would give them a break, but still allow the large industries in the state to start, I think, doing more of their fair share in terms of covering the tax base. So I would give the small businesses a definite tax break. As you know, there is, through the North Carolina Department of Administration, there is this Minority Business Development Agency, which is a federal program, but it's a state administered plan, which selectively reaches out to historically underrepresented businesses in the community, minority owned, and also I think owned by women too, but primarily minority owned. And there has been some monies sent forward to try to build up these businesses and industries. And there was some success from that. My understanding is up to the pandemic, for about a 15-year period, there was a fairly impressive expansion of minority owned businesses in North Carolina. Unfortunately, the pandemic pushed us back 20 years in that regard. And I think it has to do with the fact that African American businesses tend to run tighter margins as far as access to capital from banks. They also tend to be first generation businesses and not legacy businesses, where other perhaps better represented folks inherit their businesses from their families. So they're more fragile. And I would support increased funding to try to bring things back up to pre-pandemic levels. I think the African American community on so many levels, even the local farmers. I had a lot of older patients whose grandparents grew up on farms owned by their Black or African American grandparents. And many of them came off the farm, and often not because of their choice. They felt they were pushed off the farm. So there's been a lot of trends historically that haven't suddenly disappeared in this day and age. And so I support ongoing efforts. I would point out, I know we're a local political discussion tonight, but everything I'm hearing from Kamala Harris has everything to do with more leveling the playing field and trying to reach out to historically underrepresented folks, not just minorities, but particularly minorities in terms of health access, educational access, business access. And I think looking right at the top of the ticket for Kamala's administration and Josh Stein's, I think they would be more friendly historically to the idea of building up Black-owned businesses and small businesses too, for that matter. So, thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Steve. Alvin, coming to you, same question. How would you support small businesses? I will also display the question that I thought made sense to attach to that, that was specific about how funding is distributed.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So, how would I support small businesses? I do want to preface all this with saying that my support of small businesses is just that, support of small businesses. It's not based on the color of my skin, the color of anyone's skin. Is it a good business? Is it wholesome for the community? Is it wholesome for again, promoting those things that are consistent with what God has intended for humanity with regards to our interaction or our relationships with one another? You know, if the answer to that question is yes, then I support it. In terms of legislation, you know, I think that there are certainly types of businesses, really, any business that you think of in some way has some form of regulation that at times may be a hindrance to the growth of that business. And so we have to look at that. Those specific regulations are they really in the best interest of the people? Are they in the best interest of someone who stands to make or lose money because this person or this family is in business? And so where that type of wrongful regulation exists, then yes, I certainly am willing to work to have it deregulated, because it's not really in place with the best interest of the people in mind. But again, that's for anyone. That's not merely because it's a Black owned business or a white owned business or whatever. We the people, and I mean all of us, whether Black, white, you know, whatever, we the people need to be self-sufficient And one of the ways in which we do that, it can do that, is having our own businesses. My family and I, we've had several businesses over the years. As a matter of fact, we have a farm operation right now, and we do not exist to cater for our services to be catered to just one type of person, or one people group. We exist, and anyone who likes our product or our products, it's there for them. And so I think that we can we need to recognize that all people are created in the image of God. And so and with that in mind, we don't begin to close ourselves off to only one community or this community, that community. And when we do that, we'll see our businesses grow. But again, it's a mentality, and as your state representative or your state senator, I will model that. I will model that as I work to as a legislator, and to do so with, again, what's in your best interest in mind.
All right. So thank you both. We're at time, but I'm going to give you both 1 minute to leave us with some closing remarks, and I will begin with you, Alvin.
Yes, sir. So again, Alvin Robinson for State Senate District 26. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I'm with the Constitution Party. And so Rockingham County and really the entire Senate District 26, we need a change with regards to our Senate representative, Phil Berger. His name's been mentioned quite a few times tonight. He's been there, I believe it'll be 24 years at the end of this term, and certainly has worn out his welcome. And so again, but what we don't need in the midst of making that change is a situation that allows for not only the Black community, but people throughout the district to have a lesser quality of life due to the allowance of things that causes Almighty God to lift his hand of blessing and to place down his hand of wrath because of things like the murdering of the unborn, of abortion. I am an abortion abolitionist, and I look to represent you consistent with what God has said about humanity. My website is Alvin Robinson, the number 4, ncsenate.com. You can go there, find out more about me, where I stand. You can make contact with me through that website, whether email or telephone. And again, I look to represent you consistently with what God, our Creator, has said with regards to how we ought to live life with one another. We are not to harm one another, but we're to love one another. And together, we the people can make a difference and receive the blessedness of God, the blessings of liberty that this country was founded upon.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. So I'm Dr. Steve Lueking, family physician in our community for 30-some years. I believe strongly that in America, we have enough resources that everybody should be guaranteed access to health care. For instance, baby vaccines, the first year cost nearly $2,000. Most folks do not have access to $2,000, yet I believe children should have a fair shake and an equal opportunity to remain healthy through childhood, of course. I'm fighting hard for rural health care access. I will fight hard for public education. We've been given the short shrift. We're now 48th in the nation as far as funding. And my chief opponent's response to this is to create a private voucher program that now will assist wealthy folks to send their kids to the finest schools. I say let's make the public schools in North Carolina the finest schools. That'll build up our skilled workforce. That'll give everybody a crack at even potential. I was the first one to go to college on either side of the family as far as a 4-year degree. I want the same for every child in our county and across the state. So I hope to be your next senator. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Alvin. Greatly appreciate the time. And I hope some of your voting bloc are better informed and have learned a little bit more about you and know who they may support in this coming election. And Steve, thank you for the segue, because now we are moving on to Board of Education candidates as they come to the stage. Thank you. Thank you. You all have already introduced yourselves and you're coming to the stage. I will do my best to make sure everyone has equal time. Please keep in mind, for one, that the time is precious, and policing your microphone in between comments. So I am an educator, so I'm fully invested in this conversation. I teach at the college level, so I'm getting some of the students that you guys are sending out of there. So I'm looking forward to how this conversation goes, and I'm going to begin by asking a question about quality of education, and I'll begin with Vicky, if I may. I'm staying on a first name basis, if that's okay. Vicky, so quality of education. How would you improve the quality of education in Rockingham County, particularly in underperforming schools? And what role do you see in enhancing teacher recruitment and retention? Got to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now? You can hear me now. Okay. We are trying to do all we can for the schools that are underperforming. An example is Mall Street. We are really working to improve Mall Street. We turned that over to UNCG 5 years ago, and it went from a D to an F. And we are really, it didn't turn around last year, and we know that, but we're giving it all the tools that it can handle to improve those students' education. The First Baptist Church has taken over, and they're doing all the backpacks on the weekends to take so the children will have food. We have also got the telemedicine clinic, which have just had the ribbon cutting at Mall Street School last week. That was an adventure. We went to Bessemer Elementary School in Greensboro and visited, and found out that Mall Street was sort of a mirror image of Bessemer Elementary. We came back and we knew we did not have the funding to do that school. So we thought and thought and thought. It kept me up at night worrying about those children needed health education at that school. So we made a phone call, and in 2 minutes we had a provider that donated all the money, and we have the Trey Helderby telemedicine clinic at Mall Street School, which is a fabulous thing. If those children feel safe, they're fed, they're healthy, we have done a whole lot for those children. I visited that school last week, and you'd be surprised at how the children are on task. The administration is fabulous. We are working. So we're going to do that at every school. We're going to pull up every school, but that's the only school that we have in our county that has the F, but we're going to bring it up. But it can't turn around in a year. It takes time, but we're going to do that. What else let's see, you wanted to know. Oh, we're doing labs in all the schools. Last week we visited the middle school labs. They have the Paxton labs now, and they can choose different avenues for graduation. All children are not ready to go to a 4-year university, but we have a plan where every child will have a roadmap and a way to go. The whole community will be involved in that. And we are so excited to offer the Paxton labs at middle school, the other labs at the high school. And in 2026, we hope to have labs in all the elementary schools where children will have pathways. So they can go in any direction they want to go. They can learn a trade. They can be entrepreneurship. They can go to a 2 or 4 year university if that's what they choose. But we have pathways for all children now, which is so wonderful within our schools. And that has all come within the last 4 years while I've been on the board. We did not have those pathways before, but we have a superintendent who really is interested in that. And we are pushing that. And Nina Walls, who is heading that also. It is amazing what is going on with these schools. So I want to say that I feel very proud of what we've done in the last 4 years to improve our education for our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that answer. I'm coming to you now, Mr. James Motley. Same question. How would you improve the quality of education in Rockingham County, particularly in underperforming schools? and what role do you see in enhancing teacher recruitment and retention?
Thank you very much for the question. As I stepped into this race to help students in Rockingham County, I had to do some research because I'm not an educator, but I am a reasonably intelligent man that I can do some research and find out what's going on. And what I've surmised is this: though efforts are being made, our efforts are not up to the standard necessary to get the kind of results that we need in this county. I read a note, something in a book that I was reading that effectively said, by way of a study, I can't quote it to you now, but it was in Hidden Potentials, that effectively children who have in kindergarten an excellent, experienced kindergarten teacher can expect, and has been shown, will have a better outcome educationally and will produce better in their life's journey financially and through fulfillment in their community. What this says to me is that we need to be focusing on the elementary area because those are the ones that will be impacted longer term. And we have an opportunity, if we attack it properly, by having quality teachers, experienced teachers, then we will be able to effectively move these young people forward to the next grades as they go forward in their education. In terms of how do we attract these people, the quality educators, the people who will make a difference in the lives of these young people. And I'm not abandoning those older children because it moves forward from one grade level to the other. We look towards improving the education of all those people, all the educations of all the teachers, so that they can impart their information, their knowledge to the children. But education at the K through 5, 5th grade, I think is imperative. It's an investment in time. It won't happen overnight. It's something that we have to focus on, and we have to have measurable guides to determine the outcome of these initiatives. We can't just throw something at it that means money, new teachers, new methodologies, etc. We have to have specific criteria that determine whether or not our efforts are yielding the kind of results that we're looking for. Then and only then can we measure how we can adjust our approach to improve things over time. So, as was mentioned, funding is an issue, not just in Rockingham County, but in entire North Carolina. We need to make it clear to our elected officials that we won't stand for this anymore. If we stand around and not let them know that we're not satisfied with the funding, and by that I mean write these people, write our legislators, Berger and all those others representing us, we need to let them know that it's unacceptable and demand that they're going to do something about it by improving the funding throughout all of North Carolina and indeed Rockingham County. We do that. They might not hear it from me. They might not hear it from my neighbor, but if enough of us do this together, then we'll make enough noise, they'll have to respond. So having said that, I think we can make a difference if we work as a united front towards improving the education of our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, there are questions about the funding, so I'm glad that you are already incorporating that into this answer. Ms. Gaither Stevenson, same question. I'll reread it for you. How would you improve the quality of education in Rockingham County, particularly in underperforming schools? And what role do you see in enhancing teacher recruitment and retention?
As of late, I feel that safety will come first, because when a student feels safe, they will learn, they can learn. And right now, quality teachers is important because it provides individuals with the skills and the knowledge they need to succeed in life and to contribute to society and to develop a personally and socially. And as far as the latter part of the question, recruiting teachers, I feel that right now, when we offer competitive salary and when we recruit those that are in universities, the partnership with them, job fairs, and to reconnect with teachers from the past, I think that would help inspire the recruitment of teachers now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give an opportunity if you guys have any more you want to say about funding. That is a big question going on in the chat. The quality of education, of course, takes money. So if you had any other comments that you want to make, I'll give you 30 seconds to make them. And I'll start back with you, Ms. Stevenson. You already unmuted. Go ahead.
You went out. I didn't hear your question.
Oh, I was saying if there was 30 seconds you wanted to give to any more comments on funding. There are a lot of people asking, how do we pay for this? How do we pay for better teachers? So if you had any other comments on funding, 30 seconds just to go back to around the room.
Like I said, I think that if we can offer competitive pay to inspire those teachers to want to teach and to go back and reconnect with teachers in the past, that could help with those teachers that are new beginners.
Okay. Anything that you wanted to add to your comments, James Motley?
Yes, there is. One of the additional things that I think is important, and I can't really attest to where things stand at this point, but in my experience, one of the biggest factors in educating our kids is parental and guardian direction and expectations for our kids. If we, the parents, let our children know that we have expectations of them educationally, and indeed that we're there for them each and every step of the way, by making sure that they have what they need at home, encouragement specifically, and engagement with the teaching staff and all those people associated with our children's education, changing the mindset about education in our community will make a difference. It's one where we expect our children to achieve, we encourage them to achieve, we reward them with praise when they do achieve. And we make sure that they know we're invested in their educational future. If we can do that, get the parents and the guardians engaged in this, it'll make a huge difference, in my opinion, in the quality of education in Rockingham County.
Okay, Vicki Austin, did you have anything you wanted to add as far as comments on how to fund these endeavors?
Was one. So I know they really do make a difference in a child's life. We have advanced teaching roles now within the city schools, and I think the Rockingham County schools, and that is so important because those teachers, they teach half a day and the rest of the day they work with beginning teachers. Every beginning teacher has a mentor, which is just fabulous now, that works with them greatly. So we're trying to give beginning teachers all the support they can have to really feel successful. So that's very important. We work with our county commissioners. This board, I'll have to say, the last 4 years, we have worked with the county commissioners so closely. We have 2 Rockingham County board members that serve with 2 county commissioners, and we got an increase for the first time this year since 2009. And we also came back to the table, and they were able to salvage some positions that we were not able to keep if we hadn't had their support. So I just want to say it's great that we have such a great working relationship with them. We also are working with them on facilities. We have a facility committee, which is upgrading our schools. I noticed there was a question about when we were going to get a new school. That's all going to depend on a study we are doing with Cropper, and it will come out in December and January, and they will tell us where we need new construction, and also if we have Central Elementary in Eden that is overcrowded, and they're going to tell us how we can solve that issue. So I want to say we're working with the county commissioners on funding, and they are working with us greatly. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely good. Thank you for the response. You jumped ahead just a tad bit, so I'm going to come back to that question on infrastructure, which was brought up in the chat, asking about the building of new school, Reedsville High, to be specific. So my next question is about infrastructure, and I'm going to start with Ms. Gaither Stevenson. What measures would you advocate for to improve school infrastructure, including ensuring that schools are well maintained, have access to modern technology, and are safe for students and staff? You have to unmute.
That first of all, our schools are used for more than just learning. They're used for sports, the libraries, feeding of children, and the community meetings. So I feel like in the infrastructure of aging of schools, that needs to be addressed first. And then our schools are being more prepared for learning. To create a safe and healthy place for our students so that when they come in school, they're ready to learn. And that is a pleasant place for them to achieve the activities that they need to on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James Motley, same question. What measures would you advocate for to improve school infrastructure, including in ensuring that schools are well maintained, have access to modern technology, and are safe for students and staff?
Okay, it's pronounced Motley, just for point of correction. As it relates to the question itself, I think we have a pretty easy task there in terms of defining exactly what we need to do. Studies are being done all the time to help assess whether or not we are meeting our facility needs in the schools, how we can improve them technologically to better enhance the education of our children, to make them more competitive. We simply need to follow reasonable approach to using the studies as a guide to determine whether or not we need a new school in a given location, what that new facility should have within it. And of course, it should be as functional and as current as technology would allow us to have in our school systems. It all boils back down to, where does the money come from to answer these questions? And throwing money at problems does not solve all the problems that we have. But the reality is you can't build decent facilities if you don't have funding. We can expect money from the state, the county. Well, there are ways outside of those bounds that we, the adults in this room, can go about trying to fundraise and garner money from the support from the community itself to supplement the monies that we get from the state and the county. If we do that and we're diligent about making sure that we use these monies appropriately, we'll end up with good facilities that foster good education, good learning environments for our kids who can learn better when they're having fun and enjoying themselves. If we do all those things from the top down, state, the county, and local acquisition of funds from businesses and community leaders, we can do this.
Thank you, Mr. James Motley. Ms. Vicki Austin, coming back to you, did you have anything you wanted to add? You already started to mention what you guys were doing as far as infrastructure went. Did you have anything you wanted to add to your statement? You have to unmute.
As far as new schools, we cannot do anything until we get the report back from Cropper in December or January, and they will give us the growth that's happening all over Rockingham County, where we need new facilities and where we might need to redistrict. So we'll just have to wait on that. And also that we will go to the county commissioners and work with them at when we get the report together. And the economic development leader of Rockingham County is working with us as we speak in order to make our schools the best ever. Going to safety, Sean Gladio, who is head of our safety for our school system, is fabulous. He was a police officer with Greensboro PD, and he knows safety. And we have SROs, we have weapon detectors, and we have vestibules that are being installed in every school. So children should feel very safe coming into our schools. If you've been to any football games, which we attend regularly, you go through the weapons detectors to go through into the stadiums now, which everybody says everybody feels so safe. So I think we're doing everything in our power. Even Sean Gladio says it's like Fort Knox now. To get into a school, you really have to go through the procedures in order to make that happen. So we're improving our skills and our safety. And we're working with our county commissioners. So I think we're doing everything we can at this point. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for those responses. So I'm going to move on to bullying, something that I think is more prominent in the ways that we hear about how students are experiencing school life. So what policies would you implement to address bullying, cyberbullying included? And how would you ensure a safer learning environment for all students? Vicki, I'll start back with you.
Okay, well, since COVID, we have had a lot of issues with, I guess you'd say, mental and social development with children. But Dr. Cindy Corcoran at Central Office we have all kinds of people in place at the various schools that are helping with this issue. So if we find there's a bullying problem, that's addressed immediately. We really haven't had a whole lot of that. And if it comes across on the internet, Sean Gladio gets right on it. He really addresses that very quickly. So with our mental and social development skills and everything that we've put in place since COVID, I think we are really on top of this. So I really think that students are our number one priority in Rockingham County, and we want them academically prepared to make choices that allows them to be number one in our county. So I think that's being addressed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming to you, Ms. Gaither, what are your thoughts on bullying? What policies would you implement to address bullying, including cyberbullying, and how would you ensure a safer learning environment for all students? You have to unmute.
Excuse me. I would say to address the policies and make sure they're in place, and use your guidance counselors as responsibilities to help those kids with any crisis that may occur, like the bullying and the feeling of loneliness, because when they're being bullied, they're feeling outside of their classmates, and their social exhaustion, and also anxiety, which causes depression. So I feel like once you get those policies in place and bring those guidance counselors to talk with those students in groups or one-on-one, I think you can address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Same question. Bullying, what policies would you implement to address bullying, including cyberbullying, and how would you ensure a safer learning environment for all students?
I would just piggyback on what's been said by the earlier two respondents, but I would add to that in addition, there needs to be a mindset where the parents let the kids know that if they are bullied in any way, form, or fashion, that they let an authority figure know about it so it can be appropriately addressed. But in addition to that, the children should know that they are not entitled to be bullied, that they don't allow themselves to be bullied, but that they immediately respond appropriately by contacting the appropriate authorities to address the issue. Young people, they don't have adult brains. They will do things that are not to our liking and not in keeping with normal standards within our society. So we, the adults, have to be on top of this whole thing and not allow this kind of thing to occur, such that it does cause problems with our kids and their learning and the depression that inevitably follows that kind of thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to stay with you, James. And next question is concerning workforce development. What initiatives will you champion to prepare Rockingham County's workforce for the demands of the 21st century economy, including technical and vocational training?
There's a standard that we have when we go through K through 12 and come out the other end, 12th grade, that the majority of our kids are going to go to college. We've become aware of the fact that every good occupation does not require a four-year degree. It's wonderful to have a good welding job, a good plumbing job, can generate lots of income for the family of the graduate and a good lifestyle for themselves and for the community itself. The businesses need here in the county and those coming, we need to court them and encourage them to help develop the curricula that will allow us to be able to provide the training so that the children going through school can appropriately train and prepare themselves for the jobs that the businesses in the county and indeed outside the county need. It's one thing to be educated, but if you're not educated in an area that will allow you to get a reasonable job with reasonable pay, then you have to question how effective was that education. So I would encourage us to find those businesses that are in our county and those that are coming and encourage them to be part of letting us know what needs to be done to prepare the students to enter the workforce in their particular area of business. Thank you.
All right, coming to you, Ms. Gate, the same question. What initiatives will you champion to prepare Rockingham County's workforce for the demands of the 21st century economy, including technical and vocational training? You have to unmute.
Thank you. I would say, first of all, let's find their purpose. I can remember in high school when we had those opportunities, we had those the workshops, the home ec classes, things that prepared us, and we knew then what we were interested in. That's how I found out I wanted to be an educator. I watched my teachers. I was inspired by their styles, the way they presented a lesson, the way they carried it through, and that prepared me for what I wanted to do. And I feel like now, if we look beyond the traditional, the literacy, the math, and look at the skills that are being taught that will hold their interest, like problem solving, collaboration, innovation, productivity, those things to inspire them to be prepared for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vicki, same question. What initiatives will you champion to prepare Rockingham County's workforce for the demands of the 21st century economy, including technical and vocational training?
I was on the RCC Foundation board when we did the quarter-cent sales tax for the new workforce development building. I attended that ribbon cutting last week, and it was so exciting to see what is happening at RCC. Our high schools are working with RCC in order to offer trades. There's 4 pathways for children today. They can enroll in a 2 to 4 year university, or they can be employed as a job of their choosing right out of high school or through a college, enlist in military service, or become an entrepreneurship. So children have so many more pathways today than we had when I was graduating. When I graduated, it was home ec, but if I had to live with that, I was not a seamstress, and if my mother thought I needed to take home ec, which I did, but that was not my path. I was an educator too, and that's what I really wanted to do. So we want students to be choice ready, and we're expanding CTE options and pathways in elementary, middle, and high schools. And if we get the funding, we will be the second county in North Carolina to have an innovative high school next year, which will be at RCC. And that will be a training ground for jobs. And that is so important now for children to have a pathway. And we want every child to have a pathway to a great education and a great career that they want to do. So I think we're addressing that in Rockingham County with our CTE programs. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question is concerning mental health. I'll start with you again, Vicki. How will you work to improve school mental health resources, particularly for young people, and what strategies will you prioritize to reduce stigma around mental health, especially among marginalized groups like young Black men?
We have mental health in our schools right now. As I mentioned that earlier, Dr. Cindy Corcoran heads up that, and we have nurses in all the schools, and especially at Mall Street, we have the great new telemedicine clinic, which is going to help tremendously. And we will expand those into other schools next year if we can get the funding. And that's going to be a prime example, is to try to get people in our community to buy in, because that's so important. You know, relationships matter within our community. We have to do the whole school, the whole community, and the child model. And to do that, it takes everything we have. A child needs to feel safe, they need to feel fed, and they need to feel that their elementary school or high school or wherever they go is exceptional of the way they are treated. And we are addressing all of those needs as they enter our schools at this time. And I feel like Dr. Corcoran's program, and we have mental health specialists in some of our schools, which is great. And they're helping with the children that are having issues. So I think we're addressing that, and we're seeing a lot of that. And if they see a problem within a school, they send a team in immediately to address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. James, what would you do to improve school mental health resources with the ideas around supporting especially those who are marginalized, like Black men?
The issue of mental health is a big factor. If a person suffers from mental illness to varying degrees, it impacts their education, obviously. The things that I would do is continue the policies that currently exist and try to enhance those, again, with the understanding that the underrepresented and populations in our society are those who are going to most likely be affected by this problem because of status in society, income of the household, all those kinds of things that contribute to depression and mental illness. So we have to be mindful of that and pay special attention and be proactive and not just wait for students to come to us, but have the teachers, the counselors be looking proactively at situations that they find, in their professional opinion, need attention, and go directly to those people, the parents and the children, and try to encourage them to take advantage of the services that are available. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gaitha, same question to you. Your ideas around how to improve school mental health resources and keeping in mind marginalized communities, including young Black men.
Okay, I would say that the board should set policies that can address the safety issues in school, such as school shooting and bullying. And also, I would feel like the school improvement team needs to implement those safety precautions as well, so that the guidance counselors can address the issues to the students, whether it's one-on-one or in a group setting, because those things are happening and those children are experiencing those situations right here, right in their neighborhoods. So once they come to school, and they can share those experiences with the guidance counselors, so that they can provide some kind of guidance and some kind of help and solutions for bullying. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Gaither, please stay unmiked. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to give some closing remarks. So I'm grateful to have spent this time. As I stated, I'm a fellow educator, and I actually attended Bessemer Elementary School in Greensboro. That was my first elementary school experience. So, Ms. Gaither, if you will have some closing remarks, please take it away.
Okay. And once again, I am Gaither Stevenson, and I'm running for School Board District 1 seat because I am very sensitive to the condition of our community and our schools. And my intentions are to help make our schools a safer place for learning for all students. Thank you.
Thank you. James, closing remarks.
Thank you. I'm James Motley, and I'm running for the position of Board of Education District 2 in Rockingham County. I come to this position to help provide a new perspective on the Board of Education, to provide new blood, if you will, to try to improve education in Rockingham County. We need to look at those school systems around us and all over that are being successful, that are similar makeup as ours is, study them and decide how they're being successful, whether those successes can be replicated in Rockingham County. And though we don't want to use a cookie cutter kind of approach to emulating other school systems, how can we adjust things that fit our particular needs? I think there are lots of models out there. We need to look at those opportunities that others have taken and emulate those and try to put those in place in our county. So I would try to be innovative in terms of providing new ideas, new ways of looking at trying to find the best ways to educate our children in Rockingham County going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vicki, closing remarks. You're muted.
Now, can you hear me? Okay. First, I want to thank the NAACP for hosting this forum. We need informed voters, and I'm so glad you did this tonight. That was great. I'm Vicki Wimberly Alston, and I'm chairman of the school board, and I want to be reelected so I can finish what I've started. We've made excellent progress within the last 4 years, and this board works so well together. I wanted to give an example of what I did last week. We as a board last Christmas got a call that the children at Mall Street did not have microwaves in their homes where they could do their backpacks. This Board of Education got on the phone, and every child had a microwave in their home during the Christmas holidays so they could be. So we do try to work together to improve the citizens of our county. But before we are Democrats or we're Republicans, we're Americans. And as elected officials, our duty is to reach across the aisle and find solutions to provide the best education for our students. We must keep the lines of communication open and be willing to listen to all ideas. My main focus is to give each child in Rockingham County the best education so they will become lifelong learners. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for participating in this much needed political and I say politically open conversation so that people can get to know who they may be voting for these positions. At this point in time, I want to give the floor back to Ms. Rochelle Tucker and let her say her closing words. And I'm grateful to have been a part of this event tonight.
Belson, thank you so much. And thank all of you for coming out. Well, you didn't come out, but thank you for tuning in to this broadcast on tonight. I do want to again thank Merrill Holloway, and Felton for Felton, who moderated so well for us tonight. Also for Meryl for actually getting this set up for us tonight. We appreciate that. And yes, we do thank you, Mo, Steve, Alvin, Vicky, James, and Gaither for your time on tonight. We were not able to get everybody, but hopefully those who listen to you tonight have become better informed. And as was said before, NAACP is not an endorsing agency, or we are nonpartisan. We study the issues and we look at the candidates who will represent the issues that are important to our people, to all people. And so I do want to thank you all again for your time on tonight. So we are hoping that now that you've become a little bit better informed with these candidates, that you're making preparations to go to the polls and vote. I want to remind you that early voting does start in just a little over a week. You can vote in any of the 4 early voting sites between October the 17th and November the 2nd. So please, ma'ams and sirs, govern yourselves accordingly. If you don't vote early, make sure you vote on November the 5th. Again, we thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again, Merle, Felton, and the candidates. And we'll see you all at the polls. Have a great night.